Okay. Okay. Thanks. Good morning. Welcome to today's session. Just a quick introduction to start with. My name is Mohammed Yassin. I am part of an enterprise architecture, global enterprise architecture team in SAP called the Transformation Hub. I am based out of Bangalore, working for SAP Labs India. And as Mukesh said, I've had the opportunity to present to INDUS members before. And what I will do in today's session is cover SAP S/4HANA as a topic and some focus on the specific release 2021. I would request that the session be interactive because the scope is pretty broad, and in the 1.5 hours that we have planned today, I will not be able to deep dive into everything, and therefore I have prioritized some topics. The idea is that if you have questions, please ask them. I will try to field them where required. Otherwise, we will get back to you with additional information or answers to your questions as a follow-on item. So to leverage this session maximum, I would recommend you look at this presentation from the viewpoint of what are your priorities in terms of your landscape, your process usage. And if there are specific questions, irrespective of what is covered here, please let me know so that we can come back to you with a follow-on action. So, sorry. Yeah. What the business scope within SAP S/4HANA 2021, we will cover all the topics that, broadly, not all of these topics. I will start with this introduction. Okay, you will have heard about the intelligent enterprise strategy. So it's to give you a broader picture of what our product strategy is, how the solutions are coming together. We will start with that introduction. And then I will cover some of these topics, not all. I plan to go through procurement, finance, sales, manufacturing, and HR. The idea is that to give you an idea of what is new. What is new is often very, very specific in terms of a few new apps or new specific functionality. So I won't be able to deep dive into all of them. I will just broadly cover them. And if there are areas that you think you need further information, it's important that you let me know so that I can make a note of it, and then we'll send additional information later. The presentation that I use now is truncated because we have to cover this in 1.5 hours. So as I said, I'll focus only on specific topics, but there's a lot of information in there. I will be sending the entire deck to all of you so that you can see the detailed scope. Okay. In cross topics, I don't plan to cover all of it. I will talk about responsibility management and intelligent solution automation, which are some new topics. The rest of it you may have heard before. Some of them are products that you may already be familiar with, like master data governance or embedded analytics. So let me start with the broadest possible picture of what is called the intelligent enterprise. Some of you may have heard the phrase. Some of you may have seen this diagram. So what it signifies here is the broad approach to solution or product architecture that SAP has. This is how the focus is going to be built, and this is how it is expected to work together. Okay. So the key approach that SAP has in terms of products strategy as well as integration is to enable business collaboration for the business processes that we support. The applications will support those business processes. What is the structure of those applications, how they come together? You would have probably heard of the term intelligence suite. Some of you may have also heard about industry cloud. We'll look at how all this fits together. And then we'll also talk about the business technology platform, how it all comes together from a product standpoint or architecture standpoint. And then we will focus on some core topics around SAP S/4HANA. Okay. The primary driver that, as most of you are familiar with SAP, for ERP and continuing into SAP S/4HANA is the business processes. So the key processes that are there: source to pay, design to operate, lead to cash, request to service, and then the supporting processes for record to report and hire to retire people. All of them continue to get the required focus, both from an application as well as enterprise architecture standpoint. And to be able to support this, to be able to support these processes, we have basically the business technology platform that supports the business applications. Okay. I'll come to the evolution of the BTP, as it's called, in a while, but the basic idea behind the BTP is to be able to support the architecture that you see on top in terms of integration, enhancements, etc. So the umbrella term business technology platform from a product strategy perspective covers 4 technology areas. There's database and data management. So all the products that support this come under this technology area of the BTP. Then we have the analytics products. We have the application development and integration, so integration and extensibility, those topics, including things like business services and enhanced user experience. All the development topics, if I may use a broad term, come under there. And then there are the intelligent technologies components, which some of you may be familiar with from as Leonardo, right? So all of them are part of the business technology platform. And as an to facilitate collaboration, extended business processes, SAP will continue to invest in business networks. What are examples of these? You probably heard of the Ariba network. You have the asset intelligence network for maintenance. You have the logistics network for supply chain collaboration and things like that. The idea is to connect and collaborate with external and internal business partners. Okay, so that your processes can extend beyond the solutions in your landscape, and you can communicate and integrate with partners. There is also now a focus on building sustainability solutions because it has become an important topic, and it is a cross-business process topic. So to support the models that are evolving with customers, there's a dedicated focus on sustainability management as a solution. Okay, then there is a roadmap plan for this. Now, coming to the core, what's in the middle, the business applications. We divide this into 2 parts. There is the intelligence suite, which is the natural extension of the business suite, right? What the ERP and related solutions, SRM, SEM, etc. What we call now the LOB solutions. All of that falls within the intelligence suite that you see here. And that's where the core premises from an application perspective start out. The industry cloud provides a platform or an ecosystem where there could be point solutions, either industry specific or to extend your processes.
I think we lost your voice.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Now I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. So the industry cloud is where you can get solutions from partners as well as SAP to extend solutions that are there and provide linkages between things like the business network and intelligence suite, etc., in addition to standard integration. Now, therefore, the whole business applications portfolio will have cloud components as well as industry cloud components, as well as you have SAP solutions there. You have partner solutions there. You can also build custom solutions there. And then from an intelligence suite perspective, at the digital core is SAP S/4HANA, and then you have the LOB solutions, digital supply chain, digital manufacturing industry 4.0, the customer experience solutions, spend management, etc. Okay. Now, from that broad architecture, we will look at SAP S/4HANA, how the architecture is evolving. Before that, I'll just pause for a minute and ask if there are any questions about the broad solution that I talked about in terms of the intelligent enterprise and related architecture. Any questions?
Hello, my question was regarding when we talk about intelligent enterprise, but the thing is somehow we are not able to communicate to business users that these are the things which we can do it in the system actually. And therefore what is happening is we are going for non-SAP systems for intelligent, to find the intelligence actually.
Okay, when you say non-SAP solutions, are you talking about specific things like RPA, or are you talking about core systems?
The RPA, NLP, chatbot, the one which can help, really help giving insights to the users on the daily work which we should do.
Okay, yeah. So the approach to that is there are now, see, all of that is based, all of those extensions are based on the business technology platform. Okay, whether they are machine learning solutions, etc. So
Voice is not there now.
okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, yes. Yes.
Sorry, I'm not sure what the problem is. So there are, if you want to look at specific point solutions where machine learning is embedded, for instance, you will have to basically look at things like the discovery center, collateral, etc., which will provide that. In addition to that, in the deck that I will send out, there are pointers to the kind of solutions that are being built. We will look at one of them in SD. But what I will do is, along with this PPT, I will include one additional slide which will give you the resources where you can see what solutions are available on the industry cloud. Where do you search for intelligent solution, smaller solutions like specific RPA enabled cases or machine learning embedded cases. I'll include some additional links for you to help you find those solutions.
Okay.
So just to add to what Yasin said, right? So I think what has been missing so far was awareness of all these products within the larger SAP customer ecosystem. We are trying to address that. SAP is trying to address that through multiple ways, and one of the ways is for us to bring it through various INDUS activities. So I don't know whether you remember this, but last month we had a series on Fiori, right?
Yes.
Similarly, we are planning a series on, let's say, RPA. Similarly, a series on chatbots and other technologies that we are talking about. So my only request is that, if you are looking at any of those technologies, invite your business to join with you on those sessions, so that they also understand what is possible and what is not possible. Makes life easy for you to convince them as well.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Just to add to that, one of the difficulties I've seen when discussing with customers, and I think that may be applicable in your case, is to differentiate between the technology and the solution. Okay. While we talk about RPA as a technology availability in the business technology platform, the question that is sometimes difficult to answer is what is already available as an application that I can leverage. Okay. That part is often the difficult part. I'll include some additional slides on how you can search for those solutions, because there's quite a bit.
Here, my objective was, instead of searching multiple different small solutions, if the things are available, how do we sell this thing within the company, within the business, so that they don't have to we don't have to go for multiple environment, people, and technology.
Agreed. I'll include some material about that, and then you can go through that. And if you have further questions, just let us know, and maybe we can even have a one-to-one. So the SAP S/4HANA product started in 2015, okay, with 15.11. Along with that, you have what is on top here is what is known as the LOB solutions. Okay, the line of business solutions. So you have the cloud solutions, IBP, Fieldglass, Concur, Ariba, Hybris, SuccessFactors, etc. And the earlier business suite solutions, CRM, supply chain, and SRM, right? Within 15.11, certain things started getting prominence, redesigned data structures, etc. I'm not going to go into all of this. I think most of you may have attended earlier sessions and seen how things have evolved. More and more functionalities that used to be outside are now coming into the core. So earlier, extended warehouse management used to be a separate solution. PPDS used to be separate. And now they're all coming into the core. And I'm not planning to go into each of these unless there are questions. I assume that you're familiar with this strategy. And with 1709, more and more focus came on to intelligent technologies that we talked about. And it has been evolving like this with up to 2020, which was the release prior to this one, right? You're also aware that there is an increased focus on making sure that hyperscaler deployment is supported. But over the last three years or so, the business technology platform as the platform to support extension of business processes, support your integration needs in a hybrid environment where you will have a mix of SaaS as well as other cloud infrastructure as a service, hosted solutions, as well as on-premise. All that focus comes in through the business technology platform. As I mentioned on an earlier slide, when you hear the term business technology platform, it includes multiple products. Okay. So you can see those examples here, SAP Analytics Cloud, BW for HANA, the integration suite, what used to be earlier called Cloud Platform Integration, PI, PO. These are all under the umbrella term business technology platform now. Okay. So all the use cases that involve machine learning or intelligent technologies, they are powered by basically the business technology platform is where the development happens, right? In addition, experience management, which is basically getting feedback, matching that with operational data to derive insights, etc., or Qualtrics as a solution is where the experience management comes in. Before I move on to 2021, does anybody have any questions about any of the topics that you see on this slide in terms of integration or in moving the movement into core in terms of your landscape or questions you may have about how to move? Sorry, is that a question?
I don't think there are any questions. You can move on.
Okay. So when we talk about 2021 and future directions, what are the topics or solutions that have moved into the core? If you noticed in the earlier releases, a lot of the major movements have already been planned and executed. PPDS, extended warehouse, EWM, transportation management, etc. Right. With 2021, there are some additional topics related to advanced shipping and receiving. Okay, a focus on event management, which basically means triggers based on exceptions that can initiate further actions. Changes on sales documents, mass changes, etc. Volume tracking of substances, EHS related, along with PPDS, more collaborative MRP extensions, and within PPDS, tank planning. Okay. This year, also the roadmap for business process intelligence. Some of you may have heard the Signavio acquisition that was there, plus some of the earlier products that we had. That suite is also available. So that's new developments beyond that. In 2022 and moving forward, there are roadmap items. There is a focus on intercompany transactions even within earlier releases. Intercompany sales will be a big focus. From a generic process or a core process point of view, not going to go into each of these. These are very point related solutions, things like say safety data sheet, etc. But the important thing here is HCM on SAP S/4HANA is planned for the next release. Okay. Currently, customers that are running, I'll talk about this when I come to HR later. Currently, the customers that are running HR, HCM, payroll, plus other functions like OMPA, etc. The solution runs during, if you convert to S/4HANA, the solution runs on what is known as a compatibility pack, which is basically a licensing option. The old functionality runs without being optimized for SAP S/4HANA. And that's not a really optimal solution because it doesn't leverage native capability. And therefore, it runs on what is known as compatibility scope. For those of you converting to S/4HANA, it's you will have to look at that. There are multiple solutions which are on compatibility scope, and compatibility scope is only valid from a licensing standpoint till 2025. After that, you have to move to a true S/4HANA solution, and that by 2023, SAP has committed that we will provide equivalent solutions where it is not yet available. I'll come to that in a while. But HCM will come out next year, so you can move to a true on-premise or S/4HANA centric HCM solution instead of running it on compatibility scope. Of course, success factors, employee central payroll, those options also continue to exist. This was based on feedback from customers that this roadmap option has been built. Okay. Now, so when I go through the rest of the presentation, there is some color coding that will tell you about what is available in core, what is not. When I discuss solutions, you will often see solutions which are in dark gray, which is SAP S/4HANA Enterprise Management Scope, which means it's the equivalent of what you run in core ERP without additional licensing. It's the same here. These are covered by the SAP S/4HANA Enterprise Management. It's not too dissimilar from what you have now. For instance, in your ERP system, you have treasury management, but if you want to use treasury management, there is additional licensing involved. And that part is where it comes in the light gray. What comes in the light gray, which are referred to as SAP S/4HANA LOB solutions. These don't require additional installation. They are part of the core. And then you have solutions which are the suite line of business solutions, which are additional solutions. You have to install them or use them separately with integration. Success factors, Ariba, those kind of things. So here, part of SAP S/4HANA license, same installation, but additional license, separate solutions, separate license. Okay. And this is how it looks, right? So from a process point of view, you have the core enterprise management, you have the LOB solutions within that, and then you have the additional solutions, Ariba, Concur, Field Class, etc. if you're looking at purchasing, right? So the normal procurement functions, as an example for this, the normal procurement functions are in core. So you have your PR, POs, all of those topics here. If you want to activate central procurement, then it requires an additional license. If you want to use guided buying or the business Ariba business network, these are separate solutions. Often, when you are looking at a roadmap and you're planning a landscape, you will have to make this distinction, because you will have to evaluate, right, to see what is in my license, where do I need to invest additional, etc. And it's therefore important that you understand these distinctions, how in the SAP S/4HANA context. I don't plan to go through all of these, but are there any specific questions about any of these areas in terms of what is in core and what is additional? Okay. Now, within these areas, purchasing.
Yasin, just so that everyone has this. At any point in time, if you have any question, just drop it on the chat so that we know that there are questions, and we can take them as they come along, yeah, or wherever it is appropriate. Please keep posting your questions on the chat as you go along. Thanks, Yasin.
Yeah. So one of the key things today was to understand what is Delta in 2021, and this slide summarizes that. As I said earlier, it's quite a broad discussion when we get into this. So I will cover all of these topics at a high level now, just going through them, not necessarily deep diving, but the objective also is, if you have any specific questions about any of these, I can either try and answer them if there are slides that I have, information that I have. Otherwise, I can also provide you with additional information later. Okay, this covers all areas, so obviously I'm not an expert in our area. But
and just to add to what Yasin says, there is a slide deck, which is a master slide deck, which has got information about every single innovation that has come up. Maybe we can share a link to that master slide deck that you can download so that you can deep dive into whatever area you want to. And let us know if you want us to schedule some sessions or bring an expert on very specific topics. As Yasin said, we will both share information, and if needed, we'll bring in experts on that particular topic as
well. Mukesh, this is the master slide deck. Okay, so I'm not covering all of it, but I will be sharing the 360 odd slides. It's the same slide deck.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so on the purchase side, on the buy side, within the core, there is product compliance in purchase orders that is coming new, which is basically checks for goods against EHS type classifications. There is the equivalent of evaluated receipt settlement functionality for service procurement, so that you can have sort of like background posting of timesheets like you do for goods receipts. For central PO, there's enhancements to output control. And for the LOB solutions, collaboration has been tightened. There is enhanced integration with between Fieldglass and Ariba and S/4HANA. Okay. On the supply chain side, I talked about this earlier. Advanced shipping and receiving functionalities, which cover EWM and transportation management and integration, is available. So also enhanced radio frequency support for warehouse. With LOB solutions, this also was on an earlier slide, SAP event management, so that you can basically have triggers from a process viewpoint to handle exceptions. And the supply protection planning or availability checks in advance available to promise. Okay. And with LOB solutions, mobile support for warehouse clock. I'll talk about Mobile Start a little later. There is a slide on that. So some of you may be wondering what exactly a Mobile Start solution is. So these are the changes on the supply side. In the make core production, there are basically time-dependent stock levels reporting, some additional mass maintenance for capacities in work centers. And if you talk about production execution and operations, I believe production order split has been enhanced. And with PPDS, there is support for tank planning, which is specific to industries that use tanks. Ariba integration for collaborative MRP for those using Ariba as an LOB solution, and integration with smart equipment for the maintenance solutions that are available is there. Also manufacturing execution systems. These are all very specific functionalities. Okay, so if you need details, this line doesn't really say anything. I understand that. So if it is an area that you're interested in, there will be additional information in the slides the slide deck that is circulated. And if not, you want further details, like Mukesh said, just let us know and we can get into it. On the sales side, additional support for mass change functionalities, new Fiori applications for sales orders, etc., are available. And this will be a recurring theme. There are Fiori apps that are being enhanced and added in all the areas, and that's not something that each of them will come in unless there's a major change. As you've seen from the roadmap, a lot of the big ticket integrations into the core have been delivered with earlier releases. So there is a lot more process focus from the last release onwards, incremental functionality in areas, enhanced analytics, that kind of approach. With additional LOB solutions, there are time-dependent address capability in the business partner, import, the ability to do Excel-based sales order imports. And there's also some additional topics. I will give you an example. We talked about how the technology comes together with SD. I'll go through one particular example, which is basically auto creation of sales orders from PDF, right? So the ability to read documents, scan them, make sense of them, and at least initiate the sales order for review and confirmation before converting it into a sales order in the system. Those kind of traffic can be handled. Then with sales promotions management, bonus buy for retail customers, generally, those have been with SAP Sales Promotions Management is available. In finance, there are enhancements in trade compliance and VAT-related topics for EU, not that much new capability within the core. With extended scope, machine language support for document matching. As I said, intercompany reconciliation is a theme that is on the roadmap, enhancements in this area. And that's where these things are coming in on a regular basis. Okay. Solution order. This is something very esoteric. I'm also not, unless somebody wants to go into the details, I'm also not very familiar with the specifics of the Solution Order Allowance Cockpit app. And with intercompany ML-based document matching, it's also available for LOB solutions, because some of the additional solutions like group reporting, etc., that's relevant to those also. Then there is SAP Intelligent Real Estate, which came in earlier, which is the cloud real estate solution. Enhanced integration with core is possible, delivered with this release. Okay, and then on the design, which is PLM, better support for change records, product compliance, volume tracking, which is additional solutions, not specifically within the core. In maintenance, there is spatial asset management. So additional functionality to map via the geo enablement framework, which I will cover when I go to the maintenance part. And in the cloud maintenance solutions, the asset intelligence solutions, intelligent maintenance solutions, new status management capability, ability to look at risk and criticality for planning purposes, enhanced planning capabilities in managing backlogs, planning buckets, etc. is there. And service, field service management, which is an external solution, improved integration is possible with that. And in the LOB solutions, more ability to capture the actual details of service render date and to build ad hoc billing plans. Okay. So this is a broad indication of the changes, and because the focus was on the delta is what I brought this in. But if there are any broader questions about functionality, in SAP S/4HANA, not just 2021. I can talk about those specific areas if you have questions. You just let me know. Then something that all of you may be familiar with, so I won't spend too much time on this. Fiori is an area that continues to get enhanced. You can see that some of the deliveries, like in the sales order, the enhancements are effectively front-end related, right? So that user experience improves, etc. And so therefore, the changes in the backend aren't really talked about, but the outcome in terms of what the user can get is what is focused on, right? I'll talk about Mobile Start. SAP Mobile Start is something that has come up to improve end user productivity, allow on-the-go access with easy setup. It's basically a native entry that gives you mobile access to the Intelligent Enterprise Suite. Now, the question is, it was already available. The Fiori Launchpad opens is device friendly. So what is different? Basically, the whole approach to accessing it, some of the limitations that are there in Fiori in terms of unified across the intelligent enterprise suite, etc., those are sought to be changed. Technology wise, earlier it was the Fiori client which would open and then you would get the Fiori. This is basically a native SAP mobile is a native development for this. Okay, so the idea is you can access native and web apps. It's initially released for iOS devices. It will be available for Android next year, or there's a roadmap. It allows you to search for app content. You can have widgets. None of this was available with just the standard Fiori Launchpad, right? So you can have widgets to monitor important content. You can get native notifications, okay? And you can tailor it, so maximized focus on role-specific topics, and you can personalize it. So things that you couldn't really do with the Fiori app are available with the Fiori client are available with SAP Mobile. So you have notifications, you have groups of apps, most used apps, you can have feeds, all of that is possible. So you have notifications, you have the native apps, you have web apps, you have links, you can put in links, you can get feeds, all of this. As I said, initially available for iOS, but it will be available for Android, I believe, next year. So again, something you're familiar with, I included just so that you have the link available. If you are planning Fiori for newer releases, you can get a list. You can see all the Fiori apps here with screenshots. You can see what are the release requirements, which app is available for which release. You can see basic configuration and role-based information also here on the Fiori apps library. This is not new, just for context that it's been available for quite a while. Okay. And if you want to look at some demos for comparison, you want to see comparison videos, how things would work in ERP versus how things work with Fiori UX, some key areas, there are videos here. So you can actually see, or you can, in discussions with your business users, you can show them, for instance, if you're working in the inventory manage area or procurement, how the transactions would work in ERP and what benefits you can get with Fiori. It's a good way to show them what is the delta they'll be getting. And again, going back to the questions that was there about where can you see some, what is the approach to finding out what is available for machine learning? There are some example videos here. How you can monitor materials without purchase contracts, predict arrival of stock in transit, the invoice and goods receipt reconciliation. When you're evaluating these, if there are apps that you think are relevant, please also check the licensing, because some of them require additional licenses for the learning engines for machine learning, etc. Right. Okay. Then some videos about some actual functionality within the core. Not going to go into all of this. You can go through that. Now, I don't plan to cover these slides. These are key architectural changes in the database between SAP Business Suite and simplification, how the tables look in SAP S/4HANA. You've probably seen this before, even with earlier sessions. So unless there are questions, I'll just move on. If there are questions, please unmute or put it into the chat and I'll answer them. I'm assuming that you're familiar with these concepts, that tables have changed. If you're converting that, you will migrate data to new tables, what we call the simplified structure, like in finance, the universal journal. This is also an overview of the industries that are available in the core. They were available earlier as add-ons. They are also available now in the core. This is to be distinguished from the industry cloud point solutions that I talked about. This is a combination of core plus that is the broad picture. So you can get the delta highlights and roadmap for industry specific. If you want to find out, you will get it in the presentation, which is linked to from here. Now, as I said on the previous slide, all of these are moving to the core. So the approach of using add-ons, etc., is going away. The idea is to get one physical shipment. You get an idea of topics that were industry specific earlier, but now can be leveraged within the core, outside of the industry add-on also, or business function also. Again, the technical details of that you will get during the implementation. For instance, how do you activate specifics? But examples of these are now Catchweight Management is available within the core. Earlier, it was an industry function that had to be activated. So the technical activation in many cases may be similar, but the details of that you get into when you get into specifics. Catchweight management, as an example, is the ability to handle in the material master parallel units of measure without conversion factors. So you can manage them independently. It's important in things like consumer products, where there are products where the same product could have different weights. The quantity could be 1 unit, but the weight of each unit may be different, because if you're handling things like meat, retailing meat, etc., these are important topics. That's just an example. If there are any specific questions about this, I can take them. Otherwise, basically what I wanted to convey was the strategy. Now, what is the 2021 release strategy? Mukesh mentioned earlier on, it was released recently. It was, to be specific, it was in October. 2021 is available. The first, in Q1, the first feature package stack will come in, and in Q2, towards Q3, the second one will come in. For those of you not familiar with the strategy, every SAP S/4HANA release has a maintenance window of 5 years. So 2021 will run to 2026. Key features will be released. The original release will be FPS 0. Additional features will be released with the feature package stack 01, new functionality, and 02. After the second stack release, then it moves to a maintenance line where it is basically support package stack, not features. So you do not expect that new features will come in through SPSs. They will only be maintenance patches. And that's the broad strategy that applies to all S/4HANA versions. If you decide to, for instance, convert or implement, ideally you should go to the latest available FPS to take advantage of the window for the planning, the maintenance window for that release. If you have N-1 strategies that you currently have as an IT strategy, you may want to look at whether that is the right approach when you're considering the SAP S/4HANA release. Because, for instance, if you're planning your conversion and if you are starting now, it doesn't really make sense to go for the 2020 release because you have an N-1 strategy. You should consider the 2021 release. And talking about conversions, again, something you're familiar with. So unless there are questions, I don't want to go into details, just a broad overview. The readiness check is what you run when you want to check, you want to convert or upgrade. You either want to convert from ERP to a target SAP S/4HANA release, or you want to upgrade your S/4HANA from an earlier release to a later one. Like, let's say you're on 1709 and you want to move to 2021. It will check and tell you where there is an impact and suggest what you need to do to be able to make that transition to the newer release. Okay. Again, the links are available here. If there are specific questions, I'll take them now. Otherwise, you can always get back later. How has adoption been? We are currently at 17,500 customers that are the license, of which 11,000 odd are live already. Okay, a majority of customers that are moving generally use the conversion approach, though some of the older installations have decided to re-implement, but by and large, conversion seems to be the preferred approach. Again, it depends on specifically the way that you have implemented and what are the changes that you want to achieve. Again, I don't plan to go through this, but if you want information about industry adoption by customer industry, that's available here. And if you want specifics of customer case studies on various areas like financial services, or you want to look at what has been done in terms of Fiori adoption, what are the examples, you can use this with links to the actual stories. Okay. And I'd also like to talk a little bit about SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Okay, it's basically a private cloud offering from SAP. You must have heard, or there have probably been sessions already on RISE. But what it essentially is a simple commercial construct that allows you to have the management of the infrastructure and related services and a commercial model which is more cloud oriented with the private cloud or RISE from SAP, right? So the functional scope, you can see here, it includes software plus enterprise support, cloud connectors, Adobe Document Services for printing. Then you can also add on the LOB and industry add-ons beyond the solution. You can also extended solutions which are SAP supported from partners and partner add-ons. All of that can come in. Okay, it's all. You can also have ABAP only add-ons that are customer supported, but you can go into the details of your functional scope when you're looking at this option. Infrastructure management comes in, scalability, etc. So you get technical managed services, availability, business continuity, SLA based. And there are additional packages, which means that you can also opt for things where release version upgrades are part of the package, application operations, monitoring, etc. So the governance, security, SLA support, all of this comes in within the RISE package. For advisory and implementation and application management, you can still use SI and partners even where SAP is providing the RISE contract. That's broadly how this is split. It's not my objective to go into the details of this. I think there have been other sessions and your account team will be quite happy to discuss and the specifics of this with you. I just wanted to make sure that I covered the broad construct. Okay, that's a broad overview of SAP S/4HANA and 2021 specifically. Any questions? Otherwise, I will cover some key LOBs like sourcing and procurement, finance, etc., just to tell you what is in there and how it looks. Okay, let's talk about sourcing and procurement. In sourcing and procurement, like I mentioned earlier, there's the enterprise management, there's the additional license, and there is the LOB solutions. So you have the core procurement operations here, operational procurement, sourcing and contracts, invoice management, supply management, and reporting. Okay, most of you are familiar with the scope. that you handle in ERP, it's similar scope. Over and above this, there's central procurement. It's not a 2021 feature. It came in earlier. It allows you to do centralized procurement if you have multiple ERP systems, to centralize all of it within one system so that you can leverage economies of scale or shared services organization, right? So it's like a hub model for procurement. And then there is the LOB solutions, key of which is Ariba. You already know that. And then there's field glass for contingent labor, and then various planning and automation, RPA integration solutions, right? And analytics. This is key functions that are there within each of these, right? Again, I don't want to go into it. You're probably familiar with all of this. I'm including it just for completeness. So if you're taking central procurement, there's sourcing, requisitioning, purchasing, etc., all part of that. This slide gives you an overview of what are the benefits that the capabilities give you, how you can use them. Again, unless there are specific questions, I don't plan to go into that. But in all these slides, these symbols, the $ means that there is an additional license. So if you want central procurement, even though it is within SAP S/4HANA, technically it requires an additional license. But if you want these, you have an additional license as well as an installation. Okay, that's what carries on into the next. What is the delta scope in 2021 in procurement? There's a lot of smaller topics as well as some bigger topics. I don't want to go through all of them, but I'll just skim through. If you have questions on any of these, please interrupt me. I can try and clarify. Okay.
Yeah, so, I think that is what I was about to say as well. So if there is any particular topic that you want to go deeper, drop it on the chat so that we know which one you would like to go through. Yeah. Because if we had to cover everything, it would take at least a full day.
Yeah, and we would need at least 5-6 experts. Okay, so because some of them can be very detailed. So the idea is to give you an overview and then try and facilitate what you need after that. Operational procurement, increased integration with Ariba network for collaboration. Okay, improvements in self-service requisitioning, so that you have more flexibility on details, approval details, and all that. Requirements processing, some workflow-related enhancements, ability to edit rejected requisitions in the workflow, etc. Okay, all centered around the My Inbox app. Then I talked about this earlier, ERS procedures for service entry sheets. If ERS is active in the reference purchase order item, it is you can revoke a service entry sheet also through, although an invoice exists, not exits. So these are all delta process configuration kind of topics. Additional smart workflows, enhancements on workflows. Okay, so you can see that these are largely process tweaks, and you will find this theme recurring. As I said, the big ticket items came in the earlier release, and there is a certain amount of stability. So the focus is now on process improvements. If you're using operational procurement, product compliance and purchase orders, I talked about, which means that you can check even with stock transfers that safety information, such as from EHS, is available, and there's compliance. If delivery insights, if you have ordered items that are IoT enabled, you can integrate that with situation handling so that when the data comes in, you can trigger workflows, notifications, or transactions. For instance, damaged goods can result in proactive return, triggering, etc. Okay. In sourcing and contract management, you can have approved supplier lists in sourcing applications. So it can be made either optional or mandatory to select those suppliers. And you can have supplier lists by material group or purchasing categories. In central procurement, there are features. This is, unless there are questions, I will not cover them because this is a very specific topic and it is not in the enterprise management core. Otherwise, operational procurement, the broad flows are all supported in S/4HANA, starting with self-service requisitioning to purchase order processing. The broad enhancements are mentioned here, where there are analytical apps, etc. But I just want to give you coverage in terms of what is there, just so that you can evaluate it against what you currently use in ERP, for instance. Purchase order collaboration, depending on whether you use Ariba network or whatever. Requirements processing, services purchasing and recording available here. Purchasing rebate management is possible. Some of you may already know rebate management for both sales as well as purchasing. There is a new, different solution, which is condition contract management or settlement management, as it's referred to. There are changes in source assignment in S/4HANA, but source assignment is still is there. You have purchase contract management, and when you come to invoice management, the invoice processing continues. You have invoice collaboration, again, depending on whether you're using Ariba. You also have open text support, like you had earlier for optical character recognition and invoice workflows that are more detailed than what is available in the core, right? And then supplier management, procurement activities, classification, supply evaluation, spend visibility, all of that also continues with enhanced Fiori support. Central procurement, I'll move ahead unless there are questions. I'll move on to supply chain. Now, there is a
Yasin, there is a question on the chat around MDG, MDM. So is that a prerequisite for Ariba? I don't think it is, but if you can...
MDG, MDM is not a prerequisite for Ariba.
It also can work with third-party MDM tools, right?
It's difficult for me to say. I mean, the API-based approach is more and more available in SAP S/4HANA and Ariba, so I assume it will be, but you have to look at the specifics.
So my understanding is the same as well, that you do not need SAP MDG MDM for the master data for Ariba. The master data can come from elsewhere as well. But I would recommend that we cross-check that with the Ariba team just to be sure. I'll do that away.
You can do that, but it's not a requirement. You can have SAP S/4HANA and Ariba without MDM, MDG, as a solution. But you can get formal confirmation and pass it on. SAP S/4HANA supply chain. What is an overview of? So you have your core supply chain topics here: inventory, warehousing. When I say warehousing here, I mean the warehousing that is available as I think it is LAWM as a component, core warehousing functions that are there in ERP. And then delivery and transportation, what technically was referred to as LETRA, equivalent functionality. The reason I mentioned this because there are extended solutions, right? And then you have order processing, which is your normal ATP check. And then you have serial numbers, batches, material identification, and then tracking and managing reusable packaging materials, MTs. These are things that you had in ERP also. All of them enhanced with Fiori and maybe some Delta functionalities if you go into the details. In terms of additional license, you can get the EWM solution. That is what advanced warehousing means. You have transportation management, separate solution earlier, now embedded, but licensed separately. Advanced order processing, something that came in the earlier releases, advanced ATP checks, that's what it is. And then there is specific functionality for service parts distribution. LOB solutions, IBP, warehouse insights for warehouse analytics, global batch traceability, where you have the need to track batch end-to-end, maybe across systems, etc. Logistics business network for supplier collaboration. And then you could have extended warehouse management if you're deploying it separately, what we call the hub deployment or decentralized warehouse, and decentralized transportation management. So you don't use it in core, but you have a separate instance, either cloud-based or on-premise for those functions. And that's why it's mentioned here, because there's an additional installation involved. View of the functionalities, again, fairly straightforward. I mentioned them already in the last slide, so I'll just move on. If you look at it, these are again what the broad functionalities are there. You're familiar with most of them, so I'm not going to explain that. Now, what is the delta scope summary? Okay, again, smaller topics are there. So, in like for instance, in inventory, there are additional Fiori apps to facilitate manual reservations. Okay, new Fiori app for mobile counting of physical inventory, etc. So you can see a lot of this is Fiori apps related to inventory. In warehousing, better integration with plant maintenance for staging spare parts for required maintenance operations so that you can make it easier to access them quickly. And then there are smaller enhancements with, we talked about advanced shipping and receiving, so the TM integration is there. Then there are Fiori apps. Delivery and transportation, out of these, of course, there is the integration with warehouse management, but the topics here are fairly smaller topics from a process perspective, such as new apps for if you want to process proof of delivery to trigger additional functions, things like that. So also for serial numbers, batch management, etc., logistics, material identification, enhancements to Fiori. You can some enhancements in EWM so that you can have package creation based on SAP S/4HANA packaging instructions for material identification. For advanced ATP, again licensed separately, right? There are new check results, new enhancements to the methods. There are availability checks for scheduling agreements where there are no delivery schedules, so you can build the logic for that. Announcements to ABC, alternative base confirmations, etc. Advanced warehousing, I mentioned earlier. New migration objects for decentralized EWM, migration of RFID settings, etc. Again, not anything that I want to mention specifically. Some delta is there also in transportation, of which I don't think there is a focus on analytics. And with this release, SAP Analytics Cloud, the first content that is delivered for transportation management in the Analytics Cloud is there with this release. Okay. Service parts distribution, additional forecasting model simplifications. Unless there are questions again, I don't plan to cover that. So the entire chain, goods movements, reporting, physical inventory, warehouse management, both extended as well as embedded, deliveries, transportation management, all of them is there. From the earlier releases, there is also functionalities, and it used to be available in ERP, in some EHP as additional functionality, the ability to have managed stocks in transit. All that is still available. Available to promise batch management, serial number management, HU management, returnable packaging, empties. Entire chain continues to be covered. I talked about compatibility packs. I wanted to provide an example, right? Now, the idea of a compatibility pack is to have restricted use rights for a particular functionality where there is no HANA, S/4HANA optimized equivalent, so that when that comes, you have to move to that, right? So these are part of the compatibility license, but they run up to 2025. So by then you should move to the target solution, because these solutions will not be extended or enhanced, right? Because they are compatibility, they're not core S/4HANA solutions. Okay, you can find the details in the particular note. But example is, if you are using warehouse management within core, you can continue to use it. If you're using LETRA, you can continue to use it in S/4HANA, but at some point of time, it converges with extended warehouse management and transportation management. So, as an example, customers using basic WM as part of core obviously cannot use extended warehouse management function. So it runs on compatibility scope. From 1909, there is a native S/4HANA solution called stockroom management. And You should therefore stop using WM and move to stockroom management. Now, how to move, what are the tools that are available for moving, etc. Those topics can be gone into, but the broad approach is this. Similarly, for LETRA, there will be an equivalent solution. I talked about HCM earlier. HCM solution will come out next year. All of these are running on compatibility scope. So you can have a two-step approach. You can convert to as is and then move to it later. Okay, you don't have to do it as part of the conversion before 2025. Once you move to S4HANA, you need to move. Okay, a broad overview of manufacturing. The structure is similar. Let me maybe use this as the explanation. So you have the manufacturing and reporting within the core. You have normal QM functions like you have in ERP. You have support for all the different types of manufacturing, a discrete, process, repetitive, Kanban, JIT. Those continue to be available. And then normal PP control and execution functions, the planning, MRP, capacity planning, production scheduling. There are changes. There's a new MRP available, MRP Live. Additional MRPs are coming in with intelligence. Of course, there are licensing implications, but these are not specifically 2021 except the collaborative MRP. So the earlier releases have already brought this in. Again, when you go through the slide deck, you can see that. And then the production engineering, the BOM related processes, all of them, and production processes, the routings, all of those are also available. Additional topics and EHS, something that you're familiar with. PEO, production engineering and operations, extended control for production orders and integration with operations. And then PPDS, constraint based planning, with which you can, and also predictive MRP. Okay. And then demand-driven replenishment. Some of you may be familiar with these. These came out in earlier releases. Demand-driven replenishment allows for more dynamic planning with buffer stocks, managing buffer stock levels, etc., so that you can optimize inventory end-to-end based on short-term demand fluctuations. LOB solutions, Industry 4.0, digital manufacturing, cloud, IBP. I think you're familiar with all of these. They are available. If there are questions, I can take that. What is new? Sorry. Again, deltas in production engineering, new apps for handling work center groups, multi-level BOMs, managing routings. You can do, as I mentioned earlier, mass maintenance of work center capacity, etc. Production planning, you can do supplier collaboration for MRP change if you're using Ariba network integration so that you can do it online, convey changes online to suppliers, etc. There are other topics. Again, I'm not going to go into all of them. In terms of manufacturing operations, there are enhancements for process, repetitive, Kanban, just in time. Again, these are smaller enhancements. As I said, these are all idea to enhance the processes. And in quality management, new apps to record, to manage inspection plans and record inspection results. Okay. There is also integration. There's a collaborative quality management, the 8D approach, or the 8D approach quality, the cloud solution. You can integrate it with your S4HANA system. So also there are, for POE, there are enhancements, and also for production planning, extended production planning or PPDS, predictive MRP and enhancements, and DDMRP enhancements. Okay, largely around how you can manage constraints better, right? Because that's where the whole PPDS comes in. Okay, so the whole process continues from production engineering, which is your material, BOM, all those, the product structures for BOMs, routings, process, defining work centers, all of that PP functionality exists. You have MRP, So again, as I mentioned in an earlier release itself, it came in, you can run the classic MRP. There are some changes to MRP. Everything is based on MRP areas, for instance. So things like storage location, MRP, etc. There will be some change in the process. You can also have MRP live in memory, faster processing with leveraging HANA and in memory. Okay. Lot of other changes. Then you can go through the capacity planning, production scheduling, production control, production execution, core functions. Okay, I'm not mentioning it, but everything gets a UX makeover. The Fiori and analytics, embedded analytics provide that. Okay. So all the manufacturing options that you're familiar with, they are all available, make to order, repetitive, outsourced, whatever. Quality planning, quality inspection, quality improvement, they're all supported with enhanced features. So you can do things like FMEA, failure mode, effects analysis, all that continues. And analytics. So these are just examples of the kind of Fiori apps that are there on the production planning side. So you can see the enhancements there. For PPDS extensions, I mentioned some of them earlier: constraint-based planning, predictive MRP, DDMRP. They're all there, so you can do more optimized buffer stock planning. And then extended production orders, production engineering and operations allow for more control over the production process. So you can handle, there are enhancements in version management, so bill of material, or you can do buy-off confirmations. So that you can provide the buy-offs within the system and integrate it with your operations activities. All of that is possible from this, and this is additionally licensed. It goes beyond the normal PP production order management. EHS, I'm not going to go into it here. There are some, going back to the earlier question, I've just included this slide to sort of provide how you can look at it. So if you want to know what are the innovations that are coming in, what can be done on the forecasting side. So bot-enabled demand collaboration is possible through planned independent PIRs can be uploaded. Okay, predictive MRP. Okay, so you can do MRP simulation. So this is one way of also getting an idea of what is possible in terms of intelligent technologies or enhancements. Then on the sales side, I'll cover it quickly because there's not that much of a change. The normal order and contract management process is supported. So your whole quotation, order, pricing, all that is possible. In some of the earlier releases, Salesforce support came in, so you can manage lead opportunities, activities, and account and contact management within SAP S/4HANA itself. Incentive and commission management is an additional solution so that you can plan yourself Salesforce incentives and commissions. And then there are the LOB solutions: marketing, sales cloud, commerce cloud, and customer data cloud, etc., and Qualtrics for feedback. So if you're having CRM, then you need to decide about your strategy when you want to move out of CRM, which solutions you will need to move to depending on your scope of usage within CRM. Okay, so in Salesforce support, you can go through the whole lead, opportunity, activity, and account and contact management cycle. Okay, so the idea is to bring selected CRM capabilities into SAP S/4HANA itself. Okay, so you don't need any middleware. You can do it within the core, and it is also included in the core enterprise management license. So you can go through the whole sales process from master data, the contracts, and quotation management. So you can have the business solution portfolio, which is an aggregation of contracts, and then sales order management, sales solution billing, rebates. The whole process is supported. Just one point, again, not a 2021 topic, but if you're using credit management and rebate management in sales with S/4HANA, the solutions are different. Okay, for credit management, you have to move to FSCM credit management, and for rebate processing, you have to use settlement management. The old solutions are not available anymore. What is the delta scope? Flexibility in managing pricing, OData APIs. Okay, with the earlier releases, Excel-based pricing uploads, all of that came in now. It focuses on APIs. Okay, access as well as API as well as reporting. Yeah. Some changes in sales contract management, embedded international trade checks for sales scheduling agreements, for instance, for dangerous goods and things like that, or not necessarily dangerous goods, but lists, compliance checks for international trade. Then sales billing, preliminary billing came in an earlier release. So you could have a preliminary billing document, discuss with the customer, make changes, and then actually generate. So there are some delta changes to that. New Fiori apps for order management processing. None of these I wanted to cover specifically. Of course, we talked about business partner multiple addresses topic earlier. And this is an example that I can walk through, create sales order from PDF file. I'll come to that. Enhanced reporting and enhanced functions, some additional deltas in claims, returns, and refund. Okay. So normally when we receive the customer's buying request, you can receive it by email and then you process the email and sales order manually. The approach is that you can use an RPA bot to regularly check the dedicated email inbox and takes the PDF and put it into SAP S/4HANA as a sales order. So, which means that some learning based on past history can be used to make the sales order creation process more optimal. And it creates a sales order request in SAP S/4HANA, and then completion or incompletion logs or incorrect data. You can have a guided procedure for correction, and somebody can verify it and process it. So, idea is to have better process automation. How does this work from a technical standpoint? So you can see that basically the IRPA bot is the one. Again, this is part of the SAP BTP. So there's licensing and installation required. That's the one that does the initial work. And then in the BTP document information extraction service, we'll need to pull data. And there's a machine learning model which needs to be trained, right? There's no out-of-the-box models. It's very specific to how your data has been handled in the past. So the machine learning model will then put data into SAP so that the sales order request can be enhanced with master data determination and can be updated based on how things have happened in the past, right? So that end user validation is improved. Okay. All of this is logged, so change documents kept. So the end user can, ideally, this should cover most of the sales order creation, reducing the need for too much manual intervention, and it can go into sales order. Just an example of the kind of BTP usage and intelligence technology usage that is coming in more and more. Okay, I have a few minutes only, so I'll quickly cover plant maintenance. So you have core maintenance, you have some additional functions for spatial enablement, scheduling functions with MRS, resource scheduling, etc., which require additional licensing. And then you have the intelligent asset management solution for predictive maintenance, where and mobile asset management, extra ASPM for all of this are cloud solutions. Then MDG, spatial asset management solutions are also there. So the normal cycle you can go through for all of this. Asset spatial enablement allows you to integrate with maps so that you can use that for visualization of your data. What are the enhancements? There are some enhancements for the phase model for the maintenance processes, which is a new form of status management. Risk matrix I talked about earlier. So there are some deltas like enhanced ATP checks for maintenance orders, etc., so that you can do better planning, okay, or better scheduling. Internal integration with lean service procurement. Lean service procurement came in earlier so that you have simplified timesheets, etc., and you can have a leaner service procurement process. Changes to UX across this, both maintenance as well as extended maintenance functionalities. And we already talked about asset spatial enablement, right? So the delta that is, it's not a new function, it's just that there's a delta now. You can interface with any map that is open geospatial consortium compliant. Earlier, there were some limitations. And there's some delta improvements to LAM, linear asset management. In terms of finance, broadly, the functionalities that were supported earlier continue to be supported. You can go through all of this. There's nothing specific that I want to cover here. So you have, broadly speaking, let me just go to, sorry. Yeah, so you have the core accounting and controlling functions here, right? Key change, again, not 2021 related, but more and more the focus is on account-based COPA called margin analysis. A lot of the gaps that are there with costing-based COPA are being closed. Broadly, the solution is comparable, and all enhancements in future will be with margin analysis, which is account-based. LOB functions, nothing specific I want to mention. You're probably familiar with most of these: billing, BRIM, real estate management, etc. And these are the LOB solutions. Again, nothing specific to 2021 that has come in here in terms of new solutions. What is new within the core? Better reporting based on revenue analytics, better visibility or reporting around COGS split in COPA, some features on international trade management, okay, embargo checks, etc. Enhancements to accrual and deferral. The new accrual engine SAP S/4HANA came in many releases ago, and that is continuously being enhanced with integrated purchase order accruals, for instance, and it takes into account invoices that have come in and adjust the accrual automatically, those kind of features. Group reporting innovations, nothing specific that I want to cover. BRIM, not going into unless there's a question. And again, SAP Intelligent Real Estate Management is a standalone real estate management solution, cloud-based, that you can use if you don't want to implement it in the core, or you have to integrate it with multiple systems. The normal processes are covered here, so I won't spend too much time on those. You can go through it if there are questions.
Yasin, maybe one thing that you could talk about if you have some insights on, which is, I know that there are some RPAs that are available pre-built, ready for S4 integration, right? So are there any new bots that have been come out as part of this current release?
New scenarios that I'm not aware of anything specific, but I can check and get back if there is if there is something.
Yeah, and where can someone find all the different bots that are available, pre-built bots that are available for S4 consumption? So that will also be a good information to have for customers.
I think we discussed earlier, right, that basically links to where they can search for intelligent technologies. So that general question covers all areas, not just finance. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I'll check that and get back with the optimal way to do it. Lastly, HR in the last few minutes. The core solution is SuccessFactors Employee Central, but in S/4HANA, it basically runs on compatibility mode currently, right? So there are improvements coming in even with core under HR renewal. So basically better user interface, etc. But what I wanted to cover was that there will be, as I mentioned earlier, a new on-premise option for customers to leverage S/4HANA, right? So you will get scope which is comparable to S/4HANA, okay, but it will be based on HANA capabilities. Okay, so you can run this embedded or a separate S/4HANA instance. You will need to migrate to SAP S/4HANA. The scope is comparable. Okay. This is the solution scope. So you have the normal personal management, talent management, payroll, and time management. So customers will have multiple options. You could do a hybrid where time and attendance runs on, you can run it on compatibility scope and integrate with success factors. So C means compatibility scope. You could currently run with PA and OM, all the core talent management and success factors, and the rest running on compatibility scope. And or you could have a full HR cloud. Everything, including employee central payroll, goes into the cloud. These are the options that are currently available to customers. You could run it side by side, also a mixed situation. Okay, for some countries you run it in cloud and some countries on premise, but all of this running in compatibility scope. From next year, the core optimized S4HANA solution will be available for SAP HR, and you can continue in these ways. For instance, you can do your entire talent management, employee central related functions in success factors and only run payroll on premise if you so desire. Okay. Cross topics. There's something called responsibility management. It allows you to put in responsibility areas within the organization for various contexts, tasks, and activities. Who's responsible for deliveries or sales order related problems, etc. You can then set up responsibility management. Here's an example. If you ship the delivery, and I referred earlier to an IoT scenario, but it could be other scenarios also. If you receive an abnormal situation warning, you can trigger a customer return process, which then uses the responsibility management to decide whom it should go to, how the for the exception to be handled, and then initiate subsequent flows, such as in this case the return process flow. Okay. So it integrates with situation handling. You can manage teams and responsibilities there. You can manage which situation types will interact with those teams, and it is accessible through Fiori Launchpad, where people can receive the notifications so that they can take action as is required. Okay. There are other topics, but I had to prioritize just walk through for this presentation. That's why. So here's the intelligent situation automation for real-time consolidation. Okay, but broadly speaking, here how the solution works is situation occurs, looks at a condition, it triggers automation. Okay, they can be API calls, they can be email reminders, they can be customer created actions. The task can be executed automatically, or you can put in that somebody needs to review and do it. All of this is possible, right? So this is what is referred to as intelligent situation automation. Okay. That's all I had to cover. I've overshot by a couple of minutes. Sorry for that. Again, there's a lot of stuff that I have covered. If you want specific details after I share the PPT, please have a look and let me know if you need further information on any particular topic.
Thank you so much, Yasin. I think there is just too much detail in order to cover the entire scope of what is different from the past release to this current release. Thanks for covering the most important aspects of the new innovations that SAP has brought to market. Any questions that you have for Yasin? We can take that now, maybe for 1 or 2 questions at most. Otherwise, Yasin will share the slides. Yasin, you can share the link on the WhatsApp group directly. If anyone on this call is not part of the S4HANA WhatsApp group, let me know. You can drop an email to me at admin@induscommunity.com, and we can try and get the slides for you separately as well. I've put the email ID on the chat.
Mukesh, I'll send the link to you. I'm not sure how to put it in a share that is accessible.
No, you send it to me.
Yeah.
You send it to me, and I will do that.
Okay. So if there are no further questions, I hope that has given you a broad idea, at least how to start analyzing or looking for things. And if you need further information, let us know.
Yeah, and as I said, probably this is the last session for this special interest group for the year. For all of you who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. Otherwise, a very Happy New Year. We'll see you again next month, same time, same day. Until then, thank you so much. And do continue to engage with us on the WhatsApp groups. Continue to ask your questions on the group. If there are any topics that you want us to cover in more detail, let us know. Again, you can either email it to me or put it on the WhatsApp group. The idea is that you tell us what you want to know so that we bring the content that is useful, helpful for you in your day-to-day work. So with that, thanks everyone. Take care, have fun, happy holidays. Bye. Thanks, Yasin, for taking us through the entire thing.
Thank you.